1 minute ago, a number hit the headlines that's hard to even process. 41,923 convicted sex offenders are currently on the streets in Britain. Let's be clear, that's not speculation. That's not fear-mongering. That is a number being reported, and is igniting a firestorm of public fury, national shame, and the sense of the people in charge have either completely lost control, or worse, are fine with it. That same report confirms sex crimes committed by foreign nationals have jumped 62%, with tensions rising across the UK and thousands taking to the streets of London right now. It's more important than ever to see the full picture. If you want to stay updated on the situation as it unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm covering the angles the mainstream media might miss, like this video if you believe in unfiltered reporting. That's not a minor uptick. That's a collapse. And while the government spins words like integration, sensitivity, and social cohesion, there's a very real, very terrifying truth unfolding. A sexual assault is now happening every 7 minutes. 7 minutes. By the time this video is halfway over, at least one more person will have been attacked. And yet, the government's approach? Shrug and distract. Citizens are no longer quietly fuming. They are protesting. They are in the streets, holding signs and screaming outside Parliament buildings. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, ordinary people are demanding answers. They want safety. They want accountability. But instead, they are being handed empty statements, vague promises, and policy jargon that dodges the actual crisis. And this is where things get even darker. At the center of the outrage is the SDS-40 scheme, a policy that critics say is not just flawed, it's intentional. According to opposition voices, this program is not about humanitarian support. It's about political strategy. A long-term plan designed to reshape the UK's demographics, import future voters, and cement power, all under the mask of compassion. What they're alleging is blunt, that the government is sacrificing public safety in exchange for political survival. That they are not just ignoring red flags, they are waving them on purpose. If true, that's not just mismanagement. That's betrayal. Because while politicians argue in Westminster, communities are bearing the brunt of these policies. Police forces are overwhelmed or, in some cases, stepping back entirely. There are reports of authorities retreating from high-crime areas. Not patrolling, not arresting, just absent. So, who fills the gap? According to the reports, people are starting to rely on each other. That means private networks, local vigilante patrols, underground sources for banned self-defense tools. Because what do you expect when a government bans pepper spray, but lets known offenders roam freely? You ban protection, but you don't ban the threat? It's not hard to see how we got here. First, border control weakened. Then, thousands of migrants enter the country, many without vetting. Add to that a justice system accused of going easy on foreign offenders. Early releases, no deportations. And to top it all off, demographic data about offenders reportedly being scrubbed from official crime stats. Why? To avoid public backlash. Let that sink in. Rather than protect its citizens, the government seems more focused on protecting itself from criticism, from accountability, from consequences. Even outside the UK, people are paying attention. Former US President Donald Trump called out Britain's leadership directly, accusing Prime Minister Starmer of releasing criminals early, refusing to deport illegal migrants, and delaying critical reforms. Trump compared Britain's failing immigration controls to America's ICE operations, which, according to him, have removed over 800,000 illegal immigrants. His message? Britain's letting itself unravel. And while critics of Trump may dismiss his rhetoric, the point hits hard. Because even if you don't agree with his politics, the facts on the ground in Britain are speaking loud and clear. Rising assaults, overloaded police, public fear. It's not an opinion, it's reality. And at the center of all of this is a growing suspicion that this isn't failure, it's design. Opponents argue that the SDS-40 scheme and other related policies are part of a deliberate effort to change the national fabric, not by consent, not by vote, but by force. They say the end goal is to create a loyal voting bloc through mass immigration, regardless of the social cost. And if that means importing unvetted individuals, tolerating crime, and tearing down traditional British values in the process, so be it. It's a theory that sounds extreme. until you look at the consequences. Because this isn't just about policy anymore. It's about survival. People are watching their communities change in ways they didn't agree to. They are seeing their daughters walk to school with fear. They are being told to trust a justice system that punishes citizens for self-defense while releasing foreign predators early. And they're done being quiet about it. Reports highlight how crime stats are being sanitized, how offender details, like nationality and immigration status, are being omitted from public databases. The reason given? To avoid stigmatization. But the effect is chilling. You can't solve a problem if you're not allowed to acknowledge it. Critics say this censorship is a strategy. Keep the public in the dark. Let them stay confused. Let them believe it's just isolated incidents. That way, no one connects the dots. No one sees the full picture. But now they are seeing it. And the picture is bleak. Vigilante behavior is rising because people don't. I know things feel really heavy in the UK right now. There's a lot of division and noise on the streets. But I want this channel to be a place where we can come together. If you want to be part of a supportive community, please subscribe. And like this video to show some love to everyone feeling anxious about the state of things right now. Stay safe out there, everyone. Trust the police to show up. Mothers are tracking their daughters in real time. Fathers are organizing neighborhood watches not out of paranoia, but out of necessity. Because when the state walks away, people step in. And as that gap widens, between what the public needs and what the government provides, the consequences grow. Some are calling it a collapse. Others, a betrayal. But whatever you call it, the message from the public is clear. This is not sustainable. So, what happens next? Well, if the government keeps hiding behind bureaucracy, if they keep avoiding deportations, if they continue prioritizing political strategy over national safety, then Britain will continue to unravel. And critics are warning it won't be a slow decline. It'll be rapid, chaotic, and irreversible. The signs are already there. Protests turning more desperate. Migrant centers erupting in violence. A policing system that's no longer feared or respected, just avoided. And through it all, there's no real plan to fix it. No commitment to transparency. No urgency. Just deflection. This isn't about being anti-immigrant. It's about being pro-safety. About protecting citizens first. About demanding that the system do what it's supposed to do. Enforce the law, defend the innocent, and remove those who pose a threat. Instead, the message from the top seems to be, accept the chaos, and don't ask questions. But people are asking questions, and they won't stop. If you've stayed with us this far, we want to hear what you think. Are the streets where you live safer than they were 5 years ago? Do you trust the system to protect your family? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story shocked you, hit like, share it with someone who needs to know the truth, and subscribe, because we'll keep following this, and we won't be silenced. The headlines may try to distract, the officials may dodge the blame, but the people aren't fooled anymore. Britain is on the edge, and pretending everything's fine won't hold it together. And at this point, we're not even talking about a policy debate anymore. We're talking about a crisis of reality, where one version is being fed to the public through carefully worded press statements, and another is unfolding in the streets in real time, where people live, work, and try to raise their families. One narrative says everything is under review. The other is what people see with their own eyes. Crime rising, police retreating, and the state turning a blind eye to real, measurable danger. And the government keeps telling the public to calm down. You've seen the headlines, but the atmosphere down here is completely different. Subscribe so you don't miss the raw footage I'm releasing later this week. And like this video to help push this unfiltered reporting up the algorithm. To stop exaggerating. To trust the system. But how do you trust a system that won't even acknowledge its own failure? That refuses to publish offender demographics, won't name the origins of grooming gangs, and seems more worried about reputational damage than actual harm to citizens? You can't. And now people aren't just protesting, they're organizing. Online groups sharing legal tips on how to protect their families within the razor-thin limits of the law. Volunteer patrols forming in towns where police are scarce. Entire neighborhoods refusing to stay silent, even when they are told to leave it to the authorities. Because what do you do when the authorities don't show up? And this isn't just in fringe areas. These are average, working-class communities who are tired of being treated like they don't count. They see billions of pounds spent housing illegal migrants in hotels while local services are cut. They see known offenders released early, while they wait months just for a basic police response. And then they are told the real problem is their tone? No. The real problem is a government that has made public safety optional. And when that happens, people stop playing by the rules. Not because they want to, but because they feel like they have to. Because when you call the police 3 times about a threat and no one comes, what are you supposed to do? Wait? Hope for the best? Let your family be next? That's how we got here. A situation where survival feels like resistance. And let's talk about the numbers again, because they are not going away. A 62% rise in sex offenses committed by foreign nationals. Over 41,000 convicted predators on the streets. A sexual assault every 7 minutes. And still, the government clings to international human rights treaties, bureaucratic processes, and political correctness like it's a shield. But it's not a shield. It's a wall. One that blocks accountability, blocks transparency, and blocks justice. Critics aren't asking for a miracle. They're asking for basic competence, for laws to be enforced, for dangerous people to be removed from the country, for crime reports to be honest, and for leaders who put British citizens before foreign offenders. Instead, what they are getting is willful neglect. Willful neglect of red flags, of public outrage, of safety warnings that have now become headlines, emergency room visits, and lifelong trauma for victims. And the SDS-40 scheme is at the heart of it. According to critics, it's not just an immigration policy. It's a tool for demographic engineering, an intentional effort to change the makeup of the country in ways that benefit one political party's future. Critics claim it's not about asylum or compassion. It's about importing dependency and loyalty, with tensions rising across the UK and thousands taking to the streets of London right now. It's more important than ever to see the full picture. If you want to stay updated on the situation as it unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm covering the angles the mainstream media might miss, like this video if you believe in unfiltered reporting, regardless of the social cost. And when people question it, they are told they are racist, or alarmist, or uneducated. But the people asking these questions are the ones living through consequences. They are not in posh neighborhoods. They are not in gated communities. They are in council estates where crime is spiking, in schools overwhelmed by language barriers and behavioral issues, in hospitals where resources are being stretched beyond their limit. These people don't need lectures. They need action. But they are not getting it. Instead, they are watching migrant centers erupt into violence, police literally retreat from hotspots, and predators get early release while their victims are left to pick up the pieces. And when foreign offenders are caught, many are deported, even after conviction. Why? Because of legal loopholes, because of international obligations, because the system has decided that the rights of the criminal outweigh the rights of the victim. If that doesn't infuriate you, you're not paying attention. And it gets worse. Because the moment someone speaks up, they're accused of spreading hate, of fueling division. But the truth is, the division already exists between the people who have to live with this every day and the ones who pretend it's not happening. And the more the government suppresses the truth, the more explosive the public reaction becomes. Because people don't want to be silenced anymore. They want answers. They want safety. They want a country that feels like home again. And the pressure is building. More and more citizens are asking, if our own government won't prioritize us, then who will? If foreign offenders are being protected more than our children, then what does that say about whose side they're really on? That's where we are, a moral crossroads, where the state can either choose to regain control, to enforce its borders, its laws, and its responsibility to its people, or continue down the path of managed decline, hoping that the population eventually just learns to live with it. But they won't. That much is clear. People have already reached a point of no return. They are done waiting, done hoping, done believing that someone else will fix it. And now, they are speaking louder than ever. And that's what those in power fear most. Not hate, not criticism, clarity. Because once the public sees through the noise, through the platitudes, through the empty reassurances, there's no going back. And they see it now. They see a government that spent years prioritizing image over impact. That's used bureaucracy as a buffer for inaction. That's allowed communities to be torn apart in the name of ideology. I know things feel really heavy in the UK right now. There's a lot of division and noise on the streets, but I want this channel to be a place where we can come together. If you want to be part of a supportive community, please subscribe and like this video to show some love to everyone feeling anxious about the state of things right now. Stay safe out there, everyone. And they're not asking politely anymore. They're demanding reform. Not next year. Not after another inquiry. Now, they want unvetted arrivals stopped. They want foreign criminals deported. They want grooming gangs dismantled completely, not reviewed. They want to know who's committing the crimes, where they came from, and why they were allowed to stay. And they want leaders who are willing to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Because this isn't about far-right hysteria. It's about families living in fear. About a justice system that's collapsing under the weight of its own hypocrisy. About a nation losing its grip on sovereignty, on stability, on the very definition of order. And still, there's no real apology, no real change. Just another press conference. Another excuse. Another attempt to gaslight the public into compliance. But this time, it's not working. The numbers are too high. The crimes are too frequent. And the pain is too real to ignore. So, what happens next? That depends on whether the government chooses to face reality or continue building walls around it. But the public? They've already made their choice. They are waking up, speaking out, and demanding that Britain protect its own before it protects political talking points. And still, after all of this, there's no accountability, not one resignation, not one prosecution for those who let this happen, not one moment of pause from people at the top who should be answering, not deflecting. Every department points to the next. Every minister hides behind a policy memo. Every press release is just another version of, "We're monitoring the situation." But the situation is no longer something that can be monitored. It's something that's devouring the country from the inside out. Let's get back to the facts, because this needs to be said over and over again until it sticks. A 62% increase in sex crime committed by foreign nationals. Over 41,000 convicted predators walking free. A sexual assault every 7 minutes. That's not a security lapse. That's a system on life support. And the public knows it. You can feel it in every town hall where citizens are no longer asking questions. They're demanding answers. You can hear it in the chants of protests that keep growing week by week, filled with people who aren't radicals or reactionaries, but parents, nurses, teachers, delivery drivers. Ordinary people, now forced to become activists simply to survive in the country they were born in. This isn't about xenophobia. This isn't about nationalism. You've seen the headlines, but the atmosphere down here is completely different. Subscribe so you don't miss the raw footage I'm releasing later this week, and like this video to help push this unfiltered reporting up the algorithm. This is about safety, truth, and the fundamental right to be protected by the people you elected to govern. And those rights? They are being trampled. Look at what's being prioritized. Self-defense is criminalized. Even basic deterrence, pepper spray, personal alarms, community patrols, are being discouraged, monitored, and in some cases, outright banned. Yet those same neighborhoods are told to welcome in unvetted arrivals, to trust rehabilitation over removal, and to believe that a criminal record doesn't define a person. Try telling that to the victims. Try telling that to the girls who were trafficked, groomed, and silenced for years while authorities refused to act, because acting might have been insensitive. That's not inclusion. That's abandonment. And what's worse, the cover-up is as dangerous as a crime. The refusal to release offender backgrounds, the manipulation of statistics, the vague reports that protect bureaucrats more than they inform citizens. All of it creates a fog, a calculated effort to dull public outrage with confusion. But the fog is lifting, because the public now knows what to look for. The omissions in crime reports, the edited language in government statements, the sudden pivot to community cohesion every time a story threatens to expose the full scope of the crisis. The tactics are being exposed, and people are done playing along. Even international observers are sounding the alarm. It's not just British citizens. It's global critics watching in disbelief as the UK, once seen as a beacon of rule of law, spirals into lawlessness, where protecting human rights has become code for not protecting citizens. And yet, nothing changes. The justice system, instead of evolving, doubles down. Early releases, slap-on-the-wrist sentences, loopholes that allow deportations to be delayed indefinitely. And now, we're supposed to believe that this is normal? This is not normal. This is intentional erosion of sovereignty, masked as progressive governance. Let's not dance around the reality. Critics argue that schemes like SDS-40 aren't just misguided, they're malicious, designed to reshape the electorate, inject dependency into the system, and ensure long-term political control, regardless of the cost. And what a cost it is, not just in public safety, but in culture, in trust, in the social contract that once bound this country together. That silent agreement that said, you follow the rules, and the system protects you. But when the system breaks that promise, when it sides with predators over victims, foreign offenders over native citizens, what's left to believe in? Nothing. That's why people are turning inward, creating underground safety groups, sharing alerts among themselves, setting up community watch zones that operate independently of the police, because the police are either understaffed, instructed to stand down, or just too politically boxed in to act. This is what happens when you let ideology override reality. And reality doesn't care about political optics. It doesn't care about vote strategies or talking points. Reality is brutal, and right now it's landing hard on families who are simply trying to live in peace. You think a single mother in a working-class neighborhood cares about progressive deportation frameworks? Or does she care that a local park is no longer safe, that the local police response time has doubled, and that a convicted predator was moved into a building without notice? We all know the answer. The real-world impact of these policies is beyond abstract. It's personal, and it's no longer a fringe issue. It's national, it's everywhere, it's loud, and it's being ignored. So people are taking notes, watching how fast a government can act when a protest crosses a line, but how slow it is when a grooming gang operates undisturbed. Watching how swiftly they deploy resources to manage online misinformation, but how hesitant they are to release full crime data. Watching who they protect, who they prioritize, and who they are willing to sacrifice. Because right now, it feels like British citizens have become acceptable collateral damage in a long-term game for political power. That's not a conspiracy. That's a pattern. And it's forcing people to reconsider everything, what they are willing to tolerate, how they vote, how they raise their kids, how they view their own government. That's the fallout of sustained, institutional failure. And failure is exactly what this is. Failure to vet, failure to deport, failure to defend, failure to lead. And here's the part no one at the top wants to say out loud. This will get worse before it gets better. Because the longer accountability is delayed, the more entrenched this crisis becomes. Every day that passes without change is another day more predators walk free. Another day another victim is made. Another day the state signals it would rather protect its policies and its people. So if the government isn't going to fix this, who will? That's the question echoing across the country. Will there be serious reform? Will the SDS-40 scheme be dismantled and replaced with something that actually defends borders and protects citizens? Will early release loopholes be closed? Will demographic crime data finally be published in full? Or will the silence continue? Because silence is a decision too. It's a message. One that says, we hear you, we just don't care enough to act. And people have heard that message loud and clear, which is why the tone has changed. This is no longer about pleas for reform. It's a warning, from the public to the government, either protect us or get out of the way. Because if the state refuses to fulfill its most basic duty, ensuring the safety of its citizens, then the citizens will fulfill it for themselves. And the betrayal isn't subtle anymore. It's in every delayed deportation. It's in every redacted report. It's in every photo of a criminal offender who was released early, reoffended, and got yet another light sentence under the guise of rehabilitation. How many more headlines do we need before someone in power says what the rest of the country already knows? This is not working. The SDS-40 scheme, hailed by the government as a modern solution to humanitarian needs, is being described by critics as the single most dangerous experiment ever unleashed on British soil. Because that's what it is, an experiment. not grounded in public interest, not guided by democratic consent, but driven by an ideology that places social engineering above citizen safety. According to growing public opinion, this scheme isn't about helping the vulnerable. It's about replacing the electorate, about importing dependency, creating cultural fragmentation, and silencing opposition with accusations of bigotry if anyone dares to object. That's not immigration policy. That's manipulation. And it's playing out in real time, on the streets, in the schools, in the courts. You see it when police turn up in record time to arrest someone for posting the wrong opinion online, but stay silent when a foreign national with a violent record reoffends. You see it when taxpayer money is used to house known criminals in hotels, while British pensioners freeze in underfunded care homes. You see it when self-defense is criminalized, and victims are the ones facing prosecution while offenders are given cultural sensitivity considerations in court. This is not justice. This is strategic cowardice. And now the country is paying the price for it. Every 7 minutes, someone is sexually assaulted. Over 41,000 convicted sex offenders are out on the streets. A 62% increase in sex crimes by foreign nationals. That's not a coincidence. That's cause and effect. People trusted their leaders to keep them safe. They followed the rules. They paid their taxes. They stayed quiet when they were told the courts would handle it. They stayed calm when the police said resources are stretched. They were patient. 4 years. And now, that patience has expired. You can see it in the protests. Bigger, louder, less apologetic. You can hear it in the language. Less tolerant, more direct. Because when safety is gone, people stop caring about politeness. It's not that the public is turning radical. It's that the center is breaking apart because the institutions that once held everything together, law enforcement, courts, immigration systems, have been hollowed out and politicized beyond recognition. And instead of fixing the collapse, the people in charge are managing perception. They fund diversity campaigns. They host summits on misinformation. They clamp down on speech. But they don't deport violent offenders. They don't publish full crime stats. They don't prioritize British citizens. And it's getting harder to argue that this isn't deliberate. Because if this were just incompetence, there would be some correction. A policy reversed. A department head removed. But nothing changes. And when nothing changes, when it all keeps getting worse, people stop seeing incompetence and start seeing intention. That's why more and more people are calling this what it is, a systemic betrayal protected by red tape and spun into submission by media narratives that treat outrage as hysteria and facts as hate. But here's what they are not prepared for. The outrage isn't dying. It's organizing, across class lines, across party lines, across communities. This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about safety versus chaos. It's about whether you can walk your daughter home from school without fear. Whether your aging parents can live in peace, whether your country still prioritizes you. And for a growing number of citizens, the answer is no. No, their government doesn't protect them. No, their concerns aren't being heard. No, their children aren't safer than they were 10 years ago. In fact, it's the opposite. And when you're told to stay silent while watching your community deteriorate, when you're gaslit into thinking the issue is if we're even noticing it, that breeds not just anger, but rebellion, not the violent kind. Not yet, but rebellion in thought, rebellion in language, rebellion in refusing to comply with a narrative that demands silence while people suffer. And that rebellion is growing, not in fringe forums or underground groups, but in schools, households, workplaces. People who never protested in their lives are standing outside town halls. People who never questioned the system are now actively rejecting it. Not out of hate, but out of survival. Because that's what this is now, a fight for survival. Against crime. Against political gaslighting. Against the slow, calculated unraveling of a nation's sense of order. And still, they tell you to wait. They tell you the courts will sort it out. That deportation is complicated. That human rights treaties must be respected. But whose rights are being protected here? The rights of convicted predators? Or the rights of the women and children they victimized? Because from where the public is standing, it's clear who's been abandoned, and the betrayal is generational. This isn't just about today. It's about tomorrow, about the culture children are being raised in. about the fear that safety will never return, that the government no longer serves the people, but controls them through censorship, through legal loopholes, through demographic shifts designed to ensure they'll never have to listen to the current electorate again. Critics of the SDS-40 scheme say it openly now. This is demographic engineering, a long game of importing future voters, regardless of how it fractures society in the short term. And every protest that's ignored, every assault that's underreported, every stat that's scrubbed, it all reinforces that accusation. So where do we go from here? That depends on whether this government is prepared to choose honesty over spin, citizens over slogans, protection over politics. Because the choice is here now, not in the future. Now, people are watching. They are tracking every broken promise, every criminal allowed to stay, every victim told to stay quiet for the greater good. And they are done staying quiet. If you've made it to the end, we want to hear from you. What are you seeing in your community? Do you feel safer than you did 5 years ago? Do you believe the people in power have your back, or have you written them off completely? Tell us in the comments. Share this with someone who still believes the truth matters. Like the video if the story hit home. And subscribe, because we're not going anywhere. We will keep telling the stories they want buried. We will keep pulling the red tape off the truth, because someone has to. And if the leaders of this country won't listen to the people who built it, who pay for it, who live and suffer in it, then maybe it's time they remembered. A government that won't protect its citizens doesn't deserve its power. And that reckoning, it's already begun. And now, the reckoning is no longer a distant threat. It's knocking on the door of Westminster. The public has passed the tipping point. You can feel it in the tone of the protests, in the defiant conversations happening online and at the dinner table. The fear that once silenced people has mutated into something stronger, determination. Determination to take back control, to stop being ignored, to demand what was once a given. Security in your own country. But instead of listening, the government still doubles down. Still protecting a narrative that has already collapsed. Still telling the people that they are overreacting, that the rise in violence is complex, that the immigration system just needs time. Time? Tell that to the victims. Time didn't protect them. Policies didn't shield them. Empty press conferences didn't stop their lives from being shattered. And yet, the government treats every new incident like an isolated glitch in an otherwise smooth system. But these aren't glitches. They are patterns. A pattern of offenders entering the country unvetted. A pattern of early releases with zero public warning. A pattern of crime reports scrubbed of demographics. A pattern of silence when the victims don't fit the narrative. At this point, it's impossible not to see it for what it is. Intentional neglect. And people aren't just angry about the criminals. They're angry at who protects them. Angry that government schemes like SDS-40 are allowed to continue despite clear, devastating consequences. Angry that ministers respond to serious national security concerns with media-trained platitudes instead of action. Angry that in modern Britain, the people who speak out about crime are treated more harshly than the people committing it. And that fury? It's not going anywhere. Because the people who are fed up, who are standing in freezing streets with banners, writing letters to their MPs, speaking out on camera, they aren't extremists. They are the backbone of this country. The ones who followed the rules while their government broke them. The ones who are now being forced to become the very defenders of order the state abandoned. And if nothing changes, then the divide only grows. The distrust deepens. The legitimacy of those in charge continues to erode, piece by piece. So the question becomes, how much longer can this go on before something breaks completely? Because the clock's ticking. Not just on safety, but on trust, on patience, on the quiet willingness of millions to keep giving the system another chance. They've given chance after chance. And now, they are out of them. If you've stayed with us through this, share what you're seeing in your area. Do you feel protected? Do you feel heard? Leave a comment. Like this if it hit a nerve. Share it with someone who needs to understand what's really happening. And subscribe. We won't stop until the truth is louder than the excuses. Because if the system won't protect the people will expose the system.